Hi guys, 3rd of November 2020, more than 100 million Americans already voted. It's US election day and we are 1 minute ahead of the US cash open. So we are going to check what is going on when it comes to the indices, and we are going to check a few currency pairs ahead of the for me here in Europe, big evening, big night. Still, my main thing is my main way of thinking that the election is a good from the media perspective to try to pump few things, but overall it's gonna be the question about the one side debt, overall worldwide slowdown, and yields. That's what we are going to discuss as well. Anyway, let's check the first 5-minute trading range when it comes to the Nasdaq. We've seen the rally yesterday rejected, Friday rally rejected. What is going to happen today, guys? That's the big question. Now, preparing few lines as usual. So nothing has changed here. That's the thing, here and here. We will see where we are. Now, there is a still space based on the higher time frame. We discussed it previously. I strongly encourage you to watch all those pre-US election recordings because there is a chance we are going to see the spike, right? And based on the monthly chart, if we are going, to go through the roof, that's the swing high we discussed. That's the monthly chart. What I'm gonna to do, I'm going to make some measures. I'm going to make the measure between the high of the previous month and September. That's the monthly red color here. All right, and I'm going to make it lower down to the weekly. It corresponds with the weekly. We are talking about the levels close to 12,000. And to be honest with you, that's not gonna be surprise for me. No, not at all. If we are going to see that huge spike going lower to the lower time frame, for now, from the weekly chart perspective, well, there is a gap between what we've seen 2 weeks ago low and what we've seen currently this week, right? So market may want to try this type of the gap. So for now, as you can see on the Nasdaq, we have either based on the monthly chart, the red zone over here. Based on the weekly, we have levels close to 11,515 based on the chart I'm using based on this gap. So closing the gap over here, retest these shadows, right? So quite significant level as well. Well, to the downside, if we are going to see attempt to break even lower before we are going to try to count 1 to 1 like this, right, and move lower, we have significant possible over under a little bit higher, and the same here. So what I'm talking about is this blue line, and there you go. We are around, in that case, based on my chart, 10,350, 10,400, but we also have the same over under a little bit higher here. In that case, we are talking about the levels 10,750-ish, more or less, based on this 1 to 1. So from the higher time frame perspective, taking into the consideration that the higher volatility is possible, that's what I'm looking for. I'm not in a rush to try to from the medium or long term perspective, try to chase some prices. I have some levels. That's what I'm gonna to watch. Basically, I do expect at least retest at some point in the future 9,600 based on this late February, beginning of the March highs over here. Okay, that's how I see the things medium-term perspective. So of course I would prefer to sell some kind of the rise. When it comes to the intraday chart, let's switch lower. Let's switch to the daily chart, and the significant developments yesterday. Even we've seen ISM monster number. I don't know how they get it, but anyway, then we've seen the rejection towards the end of the day. We are still above the weekly open here, weekly and monthly open. That's the true. And to be honest with you, you know, the price action we've seen Thursday and Tuesday over here, we quite didn't close that gap, right? So what we might do here is to move one line, one green line, because right now we are discussing the daily chart. So you can see you can see that, what is this weekly? Yeah, so the gap. So you can clearly see that there is some kind of the cluster over here around 11,500, and the retest of this level, so 3% higher can not be ruled out. Also, this is inside the possible demand after the breakout, right? So that's what we have here. So overall, as of now, well, 11,500. If you want to try to, I wouldn't say maybe scalp, maybe not that great, but intraday perspective, there is an aggressive channel to the downside from the intraday perspective, something like, we can make it like this, and to the downside, something like this. There was some stops. Overall, what I would like to see from the intraday perspective, this two green lines, the zone from the daily chart, some kind of the spike to the upside with the, you know, stop count, and then move lower. So how this stop count could look like, I would like to see at some point this type of the candle taking out the yesterday high, maybe taking out the Friday, but we have the over under here. So this type of the spike with, you know, closing of the 30-minute candle inside the channel, that would be my short setup when it comes to the Nasdaq. Now, as I mentioned, yields, the next big thing. It could be another name of the game. So your homework is to check, for example, 10-year yields, right? Nice consolidation. And JP Morgan guys, they do expect a spike in that, right? Well, I have the idea when it comes to dollar yen. Overall, dollar is losing the ground today, but the dollar is trying to hold the weekly open as of now. I have nice idea here, because there you go, some kind of the possible jumper. What I would like to see, attack and retest 104, maybe lower, right, on the hourly, but then leaving this type of the shadow to the downside hourly, maybe towards the end of the day tomorrow, and don't forget FOMC is tomorrow, right? And then spike higher with the yields. The thing is that combination of the higher yields could provide them a little bit of the crash when it comes to the Nasdaq. And if we are going to start to fall when it comes to the indices, the question is really how the yen is going to react. With the higher yields, still the dollar yen could go a little bit higher. If we are going to break this falling trend line, right, we might reopen 107. And don't forget the price action we've seen 2016. It's gonna be better visible on the monthly chart, right? It was this particular candle, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, November 2016. That was the monster, right, with this lower shadow. So I do expect something like this on the intraday, from the intraday perspective or daily chart perspective, especially that we have FOMC and then we have non-farm payroll. So I'm going to with this dollar yen, I'm going to try to trade from the shorter time frame perspective in that way. So that's it when it comes to the US election. But in case you are so tired of the US election, then you can try to take into the consideration Australian dollar versus New Zealand dollar based on the combination of RBA. So they lower the interest rates, additional printing is going on, but Australian dollar is going up. So I've been expecting a little bit lower levels towards 105, if you do remember, right? The move down to 105 to the zone over here, but looks like market decided to take this over under and this demand and trying to rally up from here. So for now, right, when it comes to this cross, taking into the consideration that market is awaiting New Zealand job market later today, and the expectations are that we are going to get a weak number that could put the pressure on AUDNZD, and we might see New Zealand dollar weakness already from here, not necessarily from 105. So what I'm gonna to look for here is weekly open. That's what we're trying to hold. All right, two lower shadows, as you can see over here and over here. So any kind of the pullback below 106.50 from the short-term perspective, that could be for me some kind of the possibility to try to enter the long trade, and my target is going to be around 758, 108 when it comes to Aussie Kiwi. That's it from me, guys. So Nasdaq, dollar yen today, watching the yields as well. That's gonna be very, very interesting. In case there is a monster movement around and I'm still watching the charts, I will make a necessary update. Otherwise, see you tomorrow. Take care, be careful, don't be trapped, work with your exposure. Have a good one, guys. Take care, goodbye.